for the opportunity to share with you a few words. I was very honored to come in this morning and to make a couple of small offerings, to do the pipe ceremony, and now to share some thoughts about what I've seen here as I go back home. And I've been to many different parts of the island, of the Turtle Island, to see where some of the conflicts are starting to rise to the surface, and it's the defenders of the land who are doing this, the defenders of the land who are standing firm for our future generations, and I honor and I respect that, and I show that by offering tobacco and gifts where I can.
Sinesin don't direct one any yai. No nana trathi yao Holland don't o denaganeni yasi. De laila kolo esias no aneni low, selt oi no aneni tra, such an yak as a henisi. Sinesin jar, no health any yao, no terrace ni had any ya any.
When we got close to the territory north of Prince Albert yesterday, we stopped on the highway because I can sense where the land changes and where there's purity and cleanliness in the land still. I can sense that because I spend a lot of time in different cities where there's so much pollution and a lot of that understanding is lost about where the clean air is and where the clean land is. But we stopped along the way and I put tobacco down and I said my prayer in my way.
The Denésuwiné Nené salo, you Prince Albert you am thin any yo. No nene is la dolante because shaheni. Asun no nene they ai. $2 kalo de chen achenet konto no nene ga any yo. Si near henny. Asun achenet inki.
I lived amongst the Denésuwiné Nené in a place called Fort Smith for a few years. After I finished my school in Edmonton, I moved up there and I worked for the Smith's Landing band. Jerry Paulette, his brothers, the Paulette brothers, Francois Paulette, as well as the Tebati Denésuwiné Nené, the ones at the foot of the rapids, the Salt River First Nation people. I worked for them as well, and during that time of life, it was a very beautiful time. I learned many things, and I learned about patience and about waiting for the right time for things to happen in a good way.
What's Denésuwiné Nené there henny? You had the need no coin. Fort Smith, don't Denésuwiné sab sebane zo henny. Who is e henny? What's that? Denésuwiné Nené there henny. You had Northwest Territories kay yaget.
When I was camping on the Slave River with Francois, I was still younger and I was frustrated about how the pace of change and the pace of things was not at the speed that I'd hoped for. And I saw him as a very learned man, very wise man, experienced, and I thought, how come you're not frustrated the way I am? And he said to me, it comes down to humility and recognizing who we are in the community and who we are within our families, and going with the pace that the Creator established for us.
You had this nothing Denésuwiné Nené there henny. Slave River. Dadu said nale kaltane fotine nik in deal. But I said zene zula henny. But I has che henny. Poer tanat a day. Aslon dane. But zedane zo Atlant uta. Aslon no nia nestanu ho behel huthi ya henny.
So I learned from that. And I've always tried to carry that teaching and that understanding wherever I've gone in life. And I was asked what capacity I'm coming here today, and I believe that a lot of these political structures, from the individual, because we're all individuals, from there people get lifted up to a council or a chief position. And some people get lifted up to a grand chief or a vice chief or a regional chief, and then lifted up to a national chief. Almost like a stepping stone political structure. But each time one man is raised above another man, that promotes violence, and it creates a power imbalance. And it's not just between men, it's also amongst our women, because it creates gender inequality. That's the system that was created, this political hierarchy.
There is unto air than a hell there air say hadones tahani. Kolo there is unto Athanares yai. Koderazu meru conti unto ho ai. Ekedare than a nilye. Bizine nirelio. Sinna then no health satao thero es ilet unto Athanares yai. Agadalge nai. No pa es ile boret I henit okalosit an ID. Eita ja no pa no aneni yo dat usuga li. Kadanit halant heni.
So as I've gone through these processes, my family brought me to become a chief, and then the other chiefs brought me to become the Grand Chief, and then people thought, well, now it takes the next step, and he can maybe try to go to that next level, whatever that next level is. But I feel that that's part of the problem. We're feeding into this hierarchy where men or women are lifted above others into expectation and into job titles. And that's not who we are as people. We are supposed to sit together, and nobody is better than anybody else here. We're all the same. And when we get back to that understanding, I think that's when unity can really start to solidify our people.
Andu hokasel tieni. The chief is long, Godari is long. Here is a Grand Chief Asilio. Here is a hokasel tieni. Ko anestano sebalt ilaheni. Andu ho ai. Andu nini deli. Andu athanare yai. Andu nini wil yai balt ile nezule heni. Don't do zethie de dilt ide. Zethie It's Darial today, a rosto suga leheni. Color edenia do, I tanto, ho I, Tathanares yai, Nezule kaheni. Eta, esniket agadalagita ta penny.
So as I go through this path in my life, and I go to these other jobs and I become a Grand Chief, it's like I don't have to look back to what I did before, because now I'm going forward in this capacity. It shouldn't be that way. We should just be people, and we have to think about what our responsibilities were yesterday and what they are today and what they're going to be tomorrow. The one thread that travels with me, no matter where I go, is my responsibility back to my kids. And everything that I do, whatever job title that comes to me, always ties me back to my children, because that's who I'm responsible for right now. I'm borrowing time to create a space for my children to be able to live and bring their children in the future. And that's what all of you are doing too. You're borrowing time for them to be able to thrive, because that's where the love is. That's where the love is.
Eta hadones taheni. Otie tanto ho ai. Nus keno no tu keno kenige deli. E bagalagas na eni. E yeni bagalagas na. Diri tanto ho ai night day. Ne zoant ilek eheni tanto. Den zin altsu kontu den enilio. Belot in a hena ho nehelo ya nehonet inde. Tanto suga li. Ni dead on it than henny. Boret in henny tanto es ili. Tai day. Tanto nino hiljai. Eta si ses kena zuse tu ke. Banara is thirde. Es uyini ten hu sa ne sano janini yaeni.
So other people will come to your camp, and some of them will come with titles, job titles, or elected official titles. mayor, a chief, a grand chief, a vice chief. But what I ask as I leave here very soon, because I have to drive all the way back to Winnipeg, I ask that you ask to see who they are outside of that job title, because that's where the real connection can be made with people, is seeing past that job title. If you see who they are as a person, who they are amongst their family, that is where the real connections can be made with people. Not a man comes in with a uniform, with a hat on, a gun. That's not the person. That's not the person. That's a role. That's a role they're playing. Find out who that person is. And I think that's where peace and friendship and love can be found, is identifying who we are as human beings. I learned that when we found that girl in the river last summer. I learned that we can build community if we step outside of our role and we just focus on recognizing who we are within family. That's what that girl that was pulled out of the river, Tina Fontaine, that was her name. That's what I learned in Winnipeg, because people will try to hide behind the role that they have or the job title, so that they think that they're outside of it. They can just, with that job title, they can look this way, say that's somebody else's problem, that's not mine. But no, it is ours, because those are our children, and we are a family. And that's what I want to share with you, because there's tough times ahead. And what I'm really talking about, I think, is healing. It's healing, eh? Because all these structures have been built. They've been built in such a way that promote violence and gender inequality and power imbalances. And if we can see past that, we can heal from that together. And whatever it is you want to achieve here is achievable, because that's where the true power comes from. It doesn't come from the force of the weapons they can bring, or the force of the paper they can bring from the court in Saskatoon or Regina. There's no power there. There's only force. Okay? You can overcome all of those things. And that's what I wanted to share with you. Miigwech. Thank you.